Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget. Welcome to the podcast. My guest here is Brant Huddleston. He's retired from IBM, and he is currently living in Turkey. He is a writer of 3 books. The most recent is called Blue Skyways. And he is living in this area in Turkey called Datka. Is that correct, Brant?
Almost Datça. I had to make that correction when I got here. In Turkey, the C with a little tail on the bottom is pronounced kind of like SCH. So we live in Datça.
Dacia.
And it's a peninsula that's about 1,000 kilometers. Everything's kilometers here, but it's a good 12-hour bus ride from Istanbul. You don't show up here unless you want to be here. It's a little bit out of the way, and it's famous for being a peninsula that runs out in between the Aegean Sea that you might remember from your Greek mythology. Oedipus sailed the wine dark sea. That was the Aegean a lot, and then the Mediterranean is right over there. And in fact, there are places in the hills here where you can see both seas at the same time. They say that the fish can actually jump from one sea to the other. That's how narrow it gets. And that's stretching it a bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
So it's very windy here. We get a lot of wind here. So if the wind noise gets too loud, just let me know.
No, it sounds fine. It looks great. It looks absolutely stunningly beautiful out there. Now
it is very, very California-esque. You know, it's the west coast of Turkey, and I guess one of the important things to know about Turkey is a big country. It's a country with a long history. And I tell people, look, they say, what's Turkey like? I say, well, there's more than one Turkey, just like there's more than one United States. Portland, Oregon is not Alabama. California is not the Bible Belt, and you've got to know where you are and who you're with to know which Turkey you're talking about. But the West Coast here is very European, very liberal, California climate and lifestyle. It's great.
Yeah, nice. So let me ask you this. I mean, there's a lot of people that think about going to live in exotic places overseas. People think about it, they talk about it all the time, but very few people from I think the percentage is really, really low, or the percentage of people that actually, take that plunge and do it.
Yeah.
How did you come to what inspired you to start looking and say, I want to go live overseas and I want to retire overseas? How did you get on that journey?
Well, I had a little bit of an unfair advantage in that I started moving when I was 5 or 6 years old. And by the time I got to high school, I'd been to 13 schools in 9 years, and I'd lived overseas. My father was allegedly a consultant to the military. I interpret that nowadays to mean code language for CIA. But, we ended up traveling a lot. I lived out of boxes and suitcases. And so I became nomadic from a very early age. And that helped me a lot to adapt to the kind of cultural changes that you need to be comfortable with in order to move to a foreign country, because it's everything is different, right? The currency, the language, the food, the expectations, cultural expectations, the manners, and you need to be pretty flexible. So I kind of got that from an early age, but that shouldn't let people stop them. That's just my personal experience. But I have to say it was a huge advantage because I was already accustomed to doing that kind of thing. And so for me, stepping outside of my comfort zone was an experience that I kind of knew how to navigate already.
Yeah.
But even so, I spent, I guess I was 40 years in the United States because I came back to the US in 1970, and I stayed there. And and I worked for IBM. I was largely attracted to the I in IBM, which stands for international. So I continued to do international consulting and sales as an IBM employee. And I loved that, but I was never gone for more than a few weeks. And I would go, I went all over the world with IBM. So I continued to travel, but I still laid my head in the United States, and all my friends and family were there. And it wasn't until really in the last couple of years that I started saying, okay, look, I want to give this a try. I want to see if I can live overseas for a few weeks or a few months and how it feels to me again. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
Yeah.
And I live here. We actually own this condo with the beautiful view of the Mediterranean and back. Yeah, my girlfriend and I own it together.
Nice. Very nice. So of all of the places you've traveled extensively, and you've traveled
Yes.
overseas extensively. So
Hmm.
you're for people who are travelers, they're different kind of people because they live among the people when they travel. It's different than vacations.
Right. Yeah.
You get the experience, the feel. How did you, of all of the places that you've traveled to, select Turkey and Datça? How did you end up? I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. I love that part of the world. I'm envious of you. But how did you? All of the beautiful places that you go to, how did you guys end up there?
Well, I'll give you a link later of that very story. I just actually wrote a 5-part story, how a guy in his 60s managed to land in Turkey. A love story of all things. I already mentioned my girlfriend. Yeah, you probably didn't know I did that, but I did write that up because I get asked that question a lot. And I mentioned my girlfriend, Fabiana Capuano, which you can probably tell from her name already. She's not American. She's she's Italian, 100%. And like me, she was a nomad. In fact, we met in a little hostel in Tavira, Portugal, which is on the south coast of Portugal, when I was writing my 3rd book. And that book was about 12 months of free travel gift to my brother, who's a pilot with American Airlines. And I was on the very kind of last stretch of it when I met Fabi in this hostel. And that was when COVID was just hitting. And we both were scheduled to return to our respective countries, me so that I could see a 4th grandchild, and she so she could get surgery in Lombardy. And when we went back to those places, we got stuck there for 4 months. It wasn't until July of 2020 that we learned Turkey was open to both of us, as her as a European Union citizen and me as an American. And Turkey welcomed us both in. And so 2 weeks later, we were saying hello to each other for the first time in 4 months in the airport of Istanbul. And that's how we ended up in Turkey. That's
Nice.
the short version of the 5-part story. But it wasn't my first time in Turkey. Actually, I was here in 1967. But you can read about that in the love story. I
Yeah.
talk about it.
Did you have any specific criteria that you broke down for yourself that was just a necessity before identifying where you're going to live? Did you have any specific criteria?
Well, I'm very cautious about necessities because I already mentioned that to live in a foreign country, to step outside of your comfort zone, one of the first things you have to let go of is so-called necessities, and that's a good thing. It's part of what I like about this experience is you start to learn what's really important to you and what's not. You may notice, for example, that I've got laundry drying in the background. You spend all your whole life in the United States, you think that certain appliances like an electric dryer are a necessity. You get here, nobody's got an electric dryer. All the hot water heaters are these little small things. You learn to take cold showers, and you start finding out that I can be fine without those things. You learn that a lot of the things you thought were necessities are not. So I'm very cautious about that. And that may be the first thing to kind of get comfortable with is, are you willing to be flexible? For me, probably at the top of my list was weather. I actually don't like swampy weather. So although I visited a lot of places in South and Central America, I went and I call it taking a bite out of an apple. I would go and spend even a couple days there and say, does this feel good to me? And a lot of those countries, Panama, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, all those places, I went to all of those places, Argentina, they tend, certainly in the equatorial region, they tend to be kind of swampy, lots of bugs, beautiful beaches and things, but not my thing. I like the Mediterranean climate. I like this dry air. And so that was kind of, yeah, I here. And that's different for everybody. That's, one of the things you kind of have to a little bit go through and say, do I want to be in a city? Do I want to be at a beach? And then you have to really think it through. A lot of people think, oh, I want to be at a beach, beautiful beach in Costa Rica. Well, that's okay until you spend all day cleaning sand out of your underwear. And then you start saying, maybe I don't want to be on a beach. So the best thing is really to try a few things. It's just like with anything else. Give it a try and see how it feels to you. And even try it for a few days or a few weeks and just put your feet on the ground and sniff the air and talk to people and see how it feels to you. And that's what I did. I was probably more likely to end up in Portugal until I met Fabi, and then, surprise, new story. But being light on your feet is, I think, also as important as anything. And I was like most Americans. I had a big house. I had 2 cars. The house was full of stuff, and all of it was necessary. I got to have this thing, and you find out, no, you don't got to have this thing. And I can talk about that, about the whole process of getting rid of stuff. That's a big one. That's a hard one, because a lot of that stuff, my God, I hung on to my vinyl, Remy, until the last minute. And finally I said, okay, I got to get rid of the vinyl. And that was hard.
Wow.
Books, getting rid of books was hard, but for everybody, it's going to be something different. It's going to be grandma's chest of drawers that's been in the family for 150 years. And all of a sudden you realize you don't have any place to keep it. You've got to get rid of it.
Wow.
That's hard.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it almost sounds to me like it's like when you take that leap to go and do something and live and decide to live overseas, it's almost like a spiritual journey. It sounds like, there's so many shifts and adjustments that you make in your life. And then you're right. I mean, it's very true. I mean, I live in this house and we have so much stuff, and I can't imagine moving and how many, you don't really realize how much you have until you actually do move.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's I think I say that exact thing in the first chapter of Blue Skyways. I say, don't realize how big of a mountain you're moving until you have to move it. But the old saying is three moves is as good as a fire. In my case, I'd been 5 or 7 moves, and every time I moved, it was the same process. I would cut the stuff in half. I would get rid of, I'd give away or sell half of my stuff. And then the other half, I would say, okay, I absolutely have to have this. Mm-hmm. And I would put it in my new place. And a year later, I would have to move again. And I would look at the stuff I stored for a year and I'd say, why did I think I needed this thing? Whatever it is, I don't need this thing. And I would get rid of another half.
Mm.
And by the time you've done that as many times as I have, you get down to where, like I said, you get down to where you start really cutting not just fat and bone, but you're down to marrow, and you're really challenging your, yeah, it's a spiritual challenge, because some of those things are hard to get rid of. And it's going to be different for everybody. But I'm down to where you can fit everything I own into the trunk of a Subaru. My guitars probably take up the bulk of my material stuff. And then when we bought this place here, we did buy a few things, but our place here is only 45 square meters. I don't know what that is in feet, but I'm going to guess it's like 500 square feet. So it's pretty small, and you just don't have enough. You don't have room for stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So you're constantly challenging yourself when you look at something and you say, do I need this thing? Do I want this thing? And a lot of times I would just say, don't have room for it. Take a picture of it, give it a kiss, thank it for its service to you, and then let it go.
Sure. So you're living in basically a 500 square foot condo, which is considered large by New York City standards.
Yeah. Oh, it's big enough for Fabi and myself. We bump around in here just fine. It's fine. It's got everything we need, and it's a 20-minute walk to the little town of Dacha. We walk in every single day. The bus stops right in front of our house here. If we don't want to walk, we catch the bus. Costs 30 cents. And we ride into town, we go to the beach, we meet friends. I have a better social life here than I had anywhere in the US, hands down. And it's not just expats, although there are plenty of them here. The Turkish people are the sweetest people I've encountered anywhere in the world. They're absolutely darling. They're friendly and helpful. And we have gobs of Turkish friends. They're always inviting us over for coffee, and that normally here in Turkey, getting invited over for coffee is a 6 to 8 hour affair with food and music and dancing and all. It's really, really nice. So we're loving life here.
Yeah. It's interesting. Years ago, when I was in my 20s, I backpacked through Europe, and I was along the Mediterranean, hitting Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, all these regions. And you know how you bump into travelers and you hook up and you travel and you share. And all of these travelers are going, wait till you get to Turkey. And I'm like going, and so then I'm like going, wow, the people were fantastic in Spain, and I really loved the people in Portugal. And they're like, wait till you get to Turkey. And then that I'm moving my way, I get to Italy, and there's this, people were fantastic in Italy, and they're like, but wait till you get to Turkey.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got to Greece, had an amazing time on the Greek islands, and then I took the boat over to uh, a town called Kushadasi, and I landed in Kushadasi, and I am not kidding you. I had this just incredible ease and peace that came over me when I arrived in Turkey. And there was just a different warmth and welcoming that I
Yeah,
received in Turkey that I
wonderful.
didn't receive in other areas, even though, I mean, Europe, and there's so many wonderful places to travel and visit, and people are terrific everywhere. There's just an incredible warmth and welcoming that I experienced in Turkey,
Yeah,
and I just had
yeah,
the most amazing experience in that
yeah,
country. I loved it, just loved it. And I always tell
yeah,
people is it's one of my in my top 3 of the best places I've ever been and stayed in my life because
yeah.
of that warmth that I felt.
It's absolutely wonderful, Remy. And we just 2 days ago got back from another trip into the heartland of Turkey. This time we went to what is probably the most popular tourist destination in Turkey, which people will probably know. It's called Cappadocia. And you see pictures of the hot air balloons flying over top of these amazing fairy castles, which are these geological formations that the ancient peoples carved into and lived. So we went out there. We went to an ancient Roman city that features in my first book, which is a suspense thriller novel, a place called Laodicea. And in fact, I put if you want, put a link to a little 3.5 minute video that I just released on my visit to Laodicea, and another place called Pamukkale, which is absolutely incredible. So I put a lot of videos of my travels out there. Plus, I put out a newsletter that talks about my journeys and my experiences here. But at the end of the day, what you find when you travel around the world is that 98% of the people are just really sweet and good, and they help you and they're kind. And we've all heard it. If you make a little bit of an effort with their language, learn a few simple words like please and thank you. We all, our parents taught us that. It's enough, and you can hobble along with English. It really is. Don't let the language barrier stop you from coming.
And I forgot to say this in the beginning of the podcast, but merhaba.
Merhaba. Very good. Yeah.
That is
Merhaba lütfen. Teşekkürler. Yeah, I don't know. I probably know 5 or 7 words in Turkish, but merhaba means hello, and that's one of them. And lütfen is please, and teşekkürler is teşekkür means thank you. That's what your parents brought you up with. Learn the golden words, and they're happy.
Absolutely. Hey, what you mentioned a book, the other book that you wrote. What's the name of the book? The title?
The first book was called Map of Dreams. It's a suspense thriller.
Map of Dreams. Okay.
Yeah, and it's under a pseudonym. I suddenly forgot my own pseudonym, Paul Caruso. And a cheese plate for you, Remy, if you can tell me where the name Paul Caruso comes from. And you're going to have to go back. I mentioned the vinyl. That's a big hint.
You know what? No, I'm sorry, Brant. You got me there.
I'm a big Hendrix fan, big Jimi Hendrix fan. So there's a big clue.
Guitarist too, okay. So you got to be. I mean, it's
yeah. I
play guitarist ever.
Yeah. So really, really sweet people here, but sweet people really, really all over the world. People are very helpful and kind, and they like to see you out and about. Now, one other thing about meeting Fabi, I mentioned we traveled in a hostel, and one of my travel heroes is Rick Steves. So I was following Rick Steves a lot, and Rick Steves, I think, has a very good philosophy about travel. And basically, he says, don't let money insulate you from your experience. And you see that happen a lot with people, especially people coming from wealthy countries like the United States. Instead of staying at a hostel that costs you $12 a night, they'll stay at some big fancy hotel that costs you $1,200 a night. And that's fine. And those, to each his own. But my experience has been that when you go cheap, and I get this from Rick Steves, when you go cheap and you take the bus instead of renting a car, and you go to the local place where the local police officer eats instead of going to the big fancy restaurant, you bump into the people and the real people. And so I would say, take advice from Rick Steves, who said, don't let money insulate you from your experience. And the other thing that he says that I think is really brilliant is he says, when you travel, lay out all the things that you're going to need for your trip and divide them into 3 piles. Okay. The things that you absolutely must have. Okay. Hands down, you have to have these things like your toothbrush. The things that you might need, like it gets really cold, you might need a coat. Okay. And then the things that are in the middle, the things that you'd kind of like to have. He said, pack the first one and leave the last 2 behind. Travel light.
Yeah.
Be light on your feet. If it snows, buy a coat.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
But don't drag one all over Kingdom Come. It'll just weigh you down.
Yeah. Yep.
I travel, and I've been traveling forever. I travel with a single overhead bag. I never check anything. That's my personal preference. I pop it in the overhead. When I get off the airplane, I drag it off and I go. And everything I need is in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
I've been wearing the same pair of underwear, in fact, for the last 3 weeks, Remy. Just kidding.
Nice. Nice.
uh,
So
stands up on its own.
so what is the what is let's look at some of the cost of living for people that, like there's this percentage, and let me see. I pulled it up, and it's on according to statista.com. It says that 38% of young people 18 to 29 have no retirement savings. And then it says 27% of people aged between 30 and 44 have no retirement savings. And it says 17% of those aged 45 to 59 have a complete lack of retirement savings. Now, if you think of the numbers here in America, that's a large percentage of people that are going to retire with they're going to have to figure out a way to live off of Social Security, if Social Security is still around. So my question is Turkey affordable? I mean, and can you live comfortably in Turkey? I mean, what is the cost of a comfortable apartment? And what is the requirements to even lease an apartment? I mean, I know, like living in Asia, I lived in Asia, and they call it key money, where you got to put like $5,000 down of a deposit, and then you pay a monthly fee. It's different in America, where you just put one month deposit down typically, and then you start month to month. But what's the process in Dacia and Turkey, and is it affordable? I mean, what is the cost of a condo like you purchased? What can people purchase things for over there? What can they rent them for?
Well, absolutely insanely inexpensive here in Turkey. Uh, I think when we first got here, we rented a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath place with a balcony overlooking the Mediterranean, and I think we were paying $234 a month, as I recall.
Wow.
So yeah, and then Fabi and I split that. So everything now, Turkey's been struggling to keep its currency from getting overpowered by the dollar. So it's really great to come over here with dollars or euros in Fabi's case, and live in Turkey, because they're so strong against the local currency, which is called the Turkish lira. So yeah, it's really cheap for us to live here as Americans or Europeans, and it's crazy. I mean, we'll go out to lunch, and we'll sit down and have a spread of wonderful Turkish foods brought to our table by a Turkish mommy who just got through making them, right? It's all homemade food, really nutritious. A lot of the stuff is grown right here in Dacia. And, the bill will come in for the two of us. It'll be like $6, I mean, it's just, we have been experiencing some inflation. We've been noticing that. So a bottle of wine, for example, I think when we first got here, a bottle of wine was costing us like $2, and now it's maybe closer to $3. So we've started to notice that the prices are going up, and that's definitely something you have to deal with. Is currency inflation and the exchange between the dollar and the local currency. But yeah, it's definitely less expensive. The United States is an expensive country, and you learn that it's not only expensive because a lot of things like real estate cost a lot of money, but it's kind of expensive because of the expectations that you have. When I lived in the United States, I lived in a big house, and I couldn't hang my laundry out. They wouldn't let me. The homeowners association said, no, 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 no. You have to use an electric dryer, which not only is expensive to run, but it increases your carbon footprint. So there are things you're able to do over here. Taking the bus, for example. Take the bus. I don't own a car. I never want to own a car again. Cars are expensive. I mean, they're the second most expensive thing that you're going to have in your life is a car. And not only is it expensive in dollars, but it's expensive in what it does to you. When I went back to the US in April and I borrowed my brother's car and I was driving around, I just like, you know, you forget what it feels like to be strapped into this machine and with all the people like yelling at, you know, the anxiety, the little lights and signs telling you what to do and everything. You're like, you know, I mean, here we don't have any of that stuff. We walk everywhere we go. And if we want to go to Cappadocia, we get on a bus and we sit back. It's a great big Mercedes coach, leather seats. You know, we sit back. The guy comes around with snacks and water, and we watch movies, and it's great. So, you know, yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
So Brant, when you rented that apartment for 234, it was in Dacia?
Furnished in Dacia, yes,
Okay,
a furnished apartment.
so and could you walk pretty much to anywhere you needed to go?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
Could walk could walk to 3 different beaches, all the markets, the stores, the bars, the restaurants. Yep, all right there. Yep,
And
really,
and
really
so
nice.
what are utilities? What are the cost of like electric and you know like Wi-Fi, cellular service over there? What are those costs?
Yeah, all really dirt cheap. And again, it's a little bit unfair to compare my lifestyle because the way I live, the way Fabi and I live, is a way that even people here in Dacia don't, you know, even our friends here don't live quite as frugally as Fabi and I live in. And it's not because we have to. We actually have plenty of money. That's not why. We just like it this way. We have an air conditioner. We never turn it on. Our house is cool and comfortable. It can get very hot here. It can get close to 100 degrees. But we intentionally bought a place with a cross breeze. It comes in from the Aegean, blows through our house, and it's comfortable day and night. So we never run the air conditioner. We flipped off the hot water heater a couple of months ago. We take cold showers. You just get used to it. We like it that way, you know. So
Yeah.
our electric bill is, I don't know, I think we pay 40 lira, and the lira is 8. The exchange rate is 8. So what's that, $5? You know, a little bit
Wow.
less than $5 for a month of electricity.
Yeah.
You know, Wi-Fi is about the same, you know, about $5 a month. And,
Wow.
you know, I live here on a third of my Social Security check. I'm 65, so I
Wow.
started taking Social Security a couple of years ago. I didn't buy into all that. The government tells you to wait until you're 70. I said, why would I wait until I'm 70? I'm healthy. I need the money now. And so I took it, and I live on about a third of it. And the other 2/3 goes into the bank for, you know, for my kids,
Wow.
or for when I get too old to live like I do now.
Yeah.
Um,
Fantastic.
which, you know, yeah, yeah. But I'm arranging with Fabi's uncle Guido to pop a cap in me when I start drooling on myself so that I don't spend all my kids' money. I got a plan.
We need to have some plans in place, no doubt. So, so Brant, overall, I mean, if you had to help people wrap their brain around what it would require to live, you know, comfortably in Dacia, Turkey, I mean, what could you get by with? I mean, is it 1,000 a month? I mean, is it 800? Is it 1,500? I mean, what could you get by comfortably where you can, and I know it's kind of
Uh,
hard
you
to
know,
break that down. It's based
yeah,
on lifestyle,
I
but
would, I would say, I mean, I would say under a grand a month. You know, a grand a month will make you live comfortably. But again, you know, what's comfortable for me, taking cold showers and hanging my
yeah,
laundry out, is not going to be comfortable for somebody else.
yeah, yeah.
And me taking buses, you know, we have friends here like, oh no, we don't want to do that. We want to drive. Okay, then you're gonna have to buy a car. Okay. So everybody's going to be different,
Yeah.
but you know, I think if you're squeezed, and I have friends, I mentioned I'm 65, so I have friends that are in their 60s. They don't, excuse my French, have a pot to piss in. They're one of those people that does not have enough money to retire on. They're still working, and they don't know what they're going to do when they get to a point where they can't work anymore and they don't have any savings. And I tell them, hey, look at Southeast Asia, Thailand, dirt cheap. You can live over there for next to nothing, cheaper than Turkey. And it's a good life. And there's plenty of people over there doing it. No, 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 I can't do that, man. No, I gotta have my, you know, I gotta have my Burger King or whatever. I'm like, they got Burger Kings over there, you know, but they're, I mean, to be honest with you, Remy, I mean, very few American people are going to want to do what I did. I think the reality is they're just not wired for it. And it doesn't, it's no, you know, no harm, no foul, to each his own, live and let live. This is the way I wanted to live, but it's not for everybody. It really does take quite a bit of adjustment to live in a foreign country, you know, get a bank here and all the things that you have to do. It's for somebody that's really working on wiring themselves. But if they do it, wow, yes, they will have that spiritual experience that you talked about the other day, because every journey outward is always also a journey inward.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm seeing, you guys have an obviously a beautiful place with, you have a balcony there with the view of the Mediterranean, which is dreamlike for me
Yeah,
and many people out
yeah.
there. But to be able to figure out how to do that in what I consider one of the most beautiful parts of the world, and you can actually do that for $1,000 or less comfortably. I mean, do you guys go to restaurants often? I mean, within that budget?
all the all the time, all the time. But again, you know, we kind of have the Anthony Bourdain style of, you know, Fabi is even more so like this than I am. You know, she won't go into a restaurant that's like a fancy restaurant with white, you know, tablecloths or anything like. No, we don't touch that. We'll buy the chicken kebabs that some Turkish guy is cooking over charcoal fire on the street with a couple of wooden tables set out, and a few cats prowling around.
Yeah.
That's how we like it. And
Yeah.
we don't ever. I've never been sick. No, I take that back. I did get sick. It was in I was in a town close to the border with Syria called Şanlıurfa. They call it Urfa for short. It's one of the places that's truly uh, the birthplace of man. It's where the oldest known archaeological dig, a place called Göbekli, that is near that city. And I was there, and we were wandering around one of the bazaar, what they call the bazaar, and it was really exotic. I mean, you know, we were going through these labyrinths of little tiny alleys and streets with all the little shops and guys, you know, butchering goats and selling, you know, motorcycle parts, and it was like really everybody's there with a turban. The women are all covered up and beautiful, beautiful, and friendly. They all, they're like, wow, who are these people? You feel like you're from Venus, right? They
Yeah,
they
sure.
want to get their picture taken with you. And I was walking by a carpet vendor who was luring people into his shop by giving out these little orange drinks. And I was thirsty, and Fabi said, "Don't do it." And I said, "Yeah, but," she said, "Don't do it." And I said, come on. I did it, and I got sick for 24 hours. So I've been sick once.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we eat all the local foods right off the street, Anthony Bourdain style, and it's cheap as hell.
Yeah. What is it? What does a typical meal cost? Like a street food as opposed to like going into like a local, Turkish restaurant there that the locals go to, that the Turkish people go to. What would you pay for like a meal for street food and then at one of the local restaurants?
Well, we we went out about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago. We went out to a fish place. Now, fish is a little bit more expensive everywhere in the world, and we we literally wined and dined. So we had 2 glasses of wine, appetizers, and a couple of fish dishes. And we might have even, I think we even had a dessert. And I remember the bill came in shocking. It came in at about $33, okay, for both of us.
Wow.
And Fabi wanted to kick my ass for spending $33. And she said, "We're not doing that anymore." Which I'm okay with it, because I would rather spend more money on food. But when we travel, which we do travel around Turkey, we kind of have a cap of about the same amount, about $35 to $40 for a hotel room.
Yeah, yeah.
If it gets more than $40, we don't do it.
Sure.
And for about, I guess for every 10 hotel rooms we get, 3 of them are just dives, like dirty and nasty, and 7 of them are wonderful, absolutely wonderful, beautiful, for about $35 a night.
Sure.
You would just never find that in the US. So that gives you some idea of the costs here in Turkey. And of course, everywhere else is going to be different. Mexico's cheap too.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's really incredibly affordable there. What is healthcare like? What do you do for healthcare?
Well, the number one thing I do for healthcare is I live in a healthy place. Dacha happens to be like living in a spa. I mean, I walk down to the sea every single day. I swim, we hike, cycle, we walk everywhere. The food is all organic and local. So we're healthier here. This also happens to have the second richest oxygen level of anywhere in the world. The number one is somewhere in Switzerland. So I notice in my body that I'm healthier here than I was in the US. But I buy health insurance. You have to have it to be a resident of Turkey. So I bought health insurance. I've never needed to use it, but come on, I bought health insurance in the United States and I didn't never use it either. I was, you don't know, right? I mean, I'm gonna rag a little bit on health insurance, but you get 800 pages of stuff, you don't read any of it. You sign, you pay your premiums, and you do it for years. Every 3 months they send you update, new change. You're like, yeah, whatever, and then something happens and you find out, oh no, I'm sorry, that's not covered because the moon was full that day that you fell off the bridge. I mean, no, I have a friend who had a heart attack, and he had the best health insurance that money could buy, but he still went broke.
Yeah.
So, trying to pay for his bills. So you never really know. So I don't know here either, but I do know that there's a local hospital. And when I go there, they take, I went there and got blood work done. I don't know how much it cost me. I think it cost me $100 to get all the, complete blood work done. So I have a lot of faith that I'd be okay with the Turkish hospitals for the minor stuff. And for the major stuff, like if I found out that I had a heart attack and I had to have heart surgery, excuse me, my screen door just opened up. And I had to go back to the US, say I had cancer or something like that, then I would use Medicare, right? Because I qualify for Medicare now. So for people who don't have that, you just got to still buy private insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
And
how healthcare works.
do you get the private insurance through Turkey? Do you have to go through the country of Turkey,
Yeah,
or do you get it at
yeah,
home
yeah,
in the US?
yeah, right. But healthcare is just cheaper almost anywhere in the world than the United States. Healthcare is cheaper. And in some countries, like Portugal, for example, if you get over there early enough, say before you turn 65, and you like it and you become resident there, then you can actually get dialed into their national healthcare system. People pay very cheap, $75 a month or something like that. I don't know exactly what the costs are for Portugal, but Portugal is another great country to look at because it's inexpensive. It's one of the safest countries in the world. And safety, we haven't talked about that, but that's another big consideration, is your personal security.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that one of the things I did not like about the Central and South American countries is that they are not secure. You can get robbed. You can't just, walk away from your iPhone. You can't, in some countries, you can't take your eye off your stuff for even a second.
Mm-hmm.
They'll steal it right out from under you. And I didn't like that. Here in Turkey, we leave our stuff on the beach all the time. We go into the beach, we snorkel around for an hour. We come back. Nobody touches your stuff ever.
Yeah.
They just don't. It's just, it's here. It's a super secure. You're safe everywhere you go. I mentioned we were in Cappadocia last week, and we were wandering around at night, and we were just, like we do, we like to wander, and we saw this dark alley. We said, let's go up there, and we wandered up this dark alley. And I said to Fabi, I said, think about this. Would you do this anywhere in South? Hell no. You would never wander up a dark alley in some of those countries. Certainly not Brazil, and probably not Mexico. Definitely not Ecuador. But here in Turkey, no problemo.
Wow. Nice.
Very safe. Same with Portugal. Portugal, very safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Portugal. It's such a beautiful space. Getting back to the rent and the buying over there in Turkey, what's the advantage of buying versus renting? You've done both. What's
Yeah.
the advantage to buying over the renting? If there's
Well, I think it's it's a trade-off. I think that the biggest advantage of buying is the security of it. It's yours. It's there. And with COVID floating around like it's been, we wanted to know we had at least one place where we could hang up our spurs. We could hang our hat. And so we bought this place. I mentioned it's 500 square meters, approximately 3 balconies overlooking the sea. And it cost us, I think it cost us $60,000, 65, something like $65,000. Yeah.
wow.
So, maybe 70 with all the, and then with all the stuff we put in it. So, we split that. So it was a good investment. It's appreciating here. So we said, it's probably, it's not going to go down. It's a good investment. And it's hours. So we can travel. We spent 3 weeks in Italy last month, which, by the way, when you get over here, you can take these really inexpensive flights to a lot of different other places. So, to get to Italy, it's like a flight, $50 flight or something.
Yeah.
And when we came back, we locked the door, and 3 weeks later, we came back and unlocked it. We didn't have to mess around reservations or anything like that. We opened up the door. It was ours. All of our stuff was there. My guitar was there, and that's a good feeling, So that's a huge advantage to buying, I think, over renting. Renting is nice. I think in the early phase, if you're just getting started, kind of deciding, do I like it? Do I not like it? Definitely rent. So like if you just want to try out living in a foreign country, you want to go to Portugal, go in there, rent a place in Porto or something like that, and say, how do I feel? And I would recommend going at the worst time of the year, because everything's great when it's nice and warm. Hell, go there when it's cold and rainy and miserable, and see if you still like it.
Sure. Yeah, that's great advice. Do you what's the price range for purchasing a place in Turkey? I mean, as far as the research that you did when you guys were shopping around, what is the least expensive nice place that you can find, and how high do they go? I imagine they go up to, probably millions of dollars, especially along the Mediterranean, but I'm talking affordability wise. What is the least expensive you can get to something? And then I have one other question. Is it complex to buy over there? I mean, do you have to, find a lawyer and to really, investigate and the deed? I know it can be complex and sophisticated when buying property in South America, Central America, Mexico, because there's a lot of scams that go on. So you really have to dig.
Yeah.
But, what is it a complex process there, and what are the price ranges?
Well, the place that we have that I mentioned, we paid, I think, 65,000 for, is about as cheap as you can get in Dutch. You might get a little bit less if you don't have the view and you're looking out on the bus station or something like that. You might save another couple grand. But you can't get a whole lot cheaper than this. Most of the places are bigger and cost more. But also it's important to note that Dacia, where I live, is considered one of the most expensive places in Turkey to live.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like a resort area. So almost everywhere else in Turkey is going to be less expensive than the prices that I've been citing for Dacia. And in terms of complexity, it really helps to have a local person kind of holding your hand. And we had that. As I mentioned, the Turkish people are the sweetest and most helpful people we've ever met. And they came, and a couple of them came and guided us through the complexities, getting a bank account, getting registered with the tax office, getting the lease. It ended up not being very complex, but it was really nice to have a local there kind of looking over your shoulder. So I'd recommend that. And in every country is going to be different. Here in Turkey, that's a good idea. Not because they'll try to gyp you or anything. I don't think they will. Although I think there is a tourist price here for things. Sometimes, if you walk in to buy a pair of shoes or something like that, it'll be more for you as an American than it would be for a local Turk. They know, they see you and they say, okay, this guy's got money, so they charge you more. We know it happens. We know it happens.
Okay.
And it could happen with real estate too. Although, we're pretty comfortable with what we paid for this place. And in the end, it wasn't that complicated, but gosh, everything's relative, I mean, for us, it was comfortable process, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah. The when you guys rented that place, did you have to put a deposit down?
No. Did we have to put a deposit down? I don't think we did. No, yeah, but we rented it from a friend, a guy we knew,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
it was a very casual thing, and worked out great.
Okay,
So I would say that the more quickly you um, integrate yourself into the community and start making friends with people, and the better off you'll be, because they'll come to your aid and they'll help you out, especially the locals. They want you to be successful,
sure.
and they'll help you out. So be friendly, be nice, learn a few words of their language, get out and about, and people will give you a hand.
I got one last question about, so some people that come over.
Remy, now we agreed beforehand you were not going to discuss my sexual orientation. Okay, I said that was off limits for before we. Fabi's in there giving me the Fabi look.
I for,
Anyway, go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to ask you now.
I'm good at that.
Um, no, I forgot what I was going to ask you. It was but I think, yeah, we got a pretty good understanding of the cost of living over there. And is there anything that we didn't discuss that you can think that people need to know about, anything, something that we haven't discussed about Turkey that would be beneficial for them to know?
Well, I would say probably don't don't start with Turkey. I would say start more with a kind of a blank sheet of paper, and ask yourself, uh, ask yourself, what's important to you. Uh, Being close to family, for example, that might be one that's really important for folks, because that's a hard part of having this lifestyle. I've got three daughters and four grandkids, and I love them dearly, and I've got a fifth grandchild coming, and being away from them is hard. Um, and I won't see my daughters, for a year, and that's hard. So, some people might want to be a little bit closer to their families. Turkey's almost on the other side of the world. So, you might say, okay, well, I don't want to be that far away because I want to more trips home, in which case you might look at some place like Merida in Mexico, which is a great town, inexpensive, beautiful colonial city, and it's only 2 hours from Miami by airplane. So you could get, I mean, you think about it, people, get your brain adapted. Let's say you live in Richmond, Virginia, where I live. Well, 2 hours away is Atlanta. I mean, it's not, you wouldn't object to, if your kids lived in Atlanta and you lived in Richmond, you wouldn't think that was weird. Well, don't stop at the border, right? I
Sure.
mean, it doesn't have to be that far away. So being close to kids might be something that people would want to think about, and then that would start shaping where they go. So they may not say, okay, well, Turkey's too far away. Southeast Asia is going to be far away, but maybe Mexico, Central America, some of the Central American countries like Panama, um, uh, and Costa Rica, those are nice countries for expats to live in. Another thing is, how important is it for me to be around my fellow countrymen? You can go to certain places like Lake Aquique in Mexico that look and smell just like the United States. They got everything you want there, shopping malls, Burger Kings, all that kind of stuff. Me personally, I would not like that. But if that's important to you, then there are places you can go that are very Americanized and yet inexpensive. So
Hmm.
that would be something else to think through. There's a pretty good book. it's on. I was doing podcasts myself on this same subject, and there's a couple of them you might want to link to. But I interviewed the senior editor for International Living magazine, and he and his wife wrote a book. I think it's called How to Live on $2,500 a Month, and he's got kind of a process that I bought the book. I followed the process, and that would be a good place to start. And what else?
But it
I
sounds
think
like
that,
you can live for a lot less than that in Dacha.
oh yeah, yeah, 2,500. You can live like a king for $2,500 a
Yeah.
month in Turkey, and definitely in like Thailand. Or well, you might not want to go to Thailand now. Political stability, we haven't talked about that,
Yeah.
but that's an important one. And if you went back in time 5-7 years ago, Thailand, like Chiang Mai, was one of the hot spots for expats. But of course, Thailand's been going through quite a bit of political turmoil, and you'd want to be cautious about that. That's hard to anticipate. I don't think anybody anticipated that Thailand would have political turmoil, but that's actually another disadvantage to buying, is that you could be here in Turkey and all of a sudden, I don't know, over here we're a lot closer to Afghanistan. We border with Syria, we border with Russia. I feel very safe and secure here, but 5 years from now, for all I know, we could be in the middle of a political turmoil. I don't think so, but you never really know,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't.
Hell, the United States is having political turmoil. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
my my own country.
Yeah. So, living like a king, I just want to end it this way so that people kind of get Dacha is on the southern coast of the Mediterranean and Turkey. It's just below a town that I spent some time in called Bodrum, and it's
Bodrum.
absolutely
Yeah.
stunningly beautiful in Bodrum as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brant broke it down that you could live comfortably on $1,000 a month, and that's everything, right? You're talking
Yeah.
food, and you're talking a nice, comfortable apartment, going out to eat occasionally, and eating the local food, and he lives in an area that if you can view this and see his backdrop. He has mountains in the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm very envious of him right now because
There
he's
you go.
living the dream. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful
It's
where he
it's
lives.
fantastic. I watched the sunrise over those mountains. You probably can't see it because the resolution is not going to be that good, but there's this whole area is ringed with mountains behind me. Right over my shoulder that way is the island of Simi, which belongs to Greece. So I can actually say hello to the Greeks over there, not that far away. And yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm just
It's
salivating
absolutely
here
fantastic.
right now. I'm just salivating. This is not fair.
uh,
That's awesome. It's really
yeah.
found a special, special place, and I'm just happy to and so ecstatic for you guys. And
Well, come over and visit.
you know,
Come
we
over and
may
visit.
we may have to arrange a time to do that. So I just want to say, Brant Huddleston, he is a writer living in Turkey. Thank you so much for being with us today and
You're
sharing
welcome.
your insights. I mean, it has been incredible, and
Let's see
you're
if I can
you're an
get my
amazing guy.
secretary. Well, not everybody thinks that, but thank you. Hey, Fabi, my love, can you grab a copy of Blue Skyways off the shelf there and hand it to me? I'm going to see if my
His most
secretary
re-
will bring me.
and his most recent book, Blue Sky, is available on
I'm going to
Amazon.
promo my book. I'm going to shamelessly promote my book.
Hey, that's what
Thank you,
I'm
my
talking
love. Yeah, this is Map of Dreams. That's the suspense thriller by Paul Caruso, who, by the way, is one of Jimi Hendrix's friends. And then this is Blue Skyways, which is more recently published. And you can get them both on Amazon, or you can go to my website and you can link from there. So
Well, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate you, and thank you
you
so
bet,
much for
man.
taking the time to tell us about your town that you live in and beautiful Turkey, and very grateful. Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Remy, and I look forward to hanging with you when I come back to Richmond next year.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Take care.